Castro. I want to let that on the record. He's trying to be the best Stanford person in this race. It's problematic for me. It's really good to be here, and I just have to say the excitement and enthusiasm we've been finding all over the state is incredible, and that's what we're going to need, because this is not just about one office and one position. This is really about winning a lot of seats, and we have two great Congress people here that I'm going to do everything I can to help get reelected, and of course, my friend Jean Shaheen, who is one of the great leaders in the Senate. We're going to fight for her as well, and I'm just. This kind of grassroots energy, and I think you all are seeing it, a sold-out arena, is really exciting, and this is what we're going to need all around the country. I remind people all the time that Donald Trump got less votes than Mitt Romney did. The issue wasn't him beating Democrats or our candidates. The issue was us coming out and making sure we do that. We must have in this race, at the top of the ticket, the candidate that can energize, that can excite, that can bring enthusiasm, that can unify the Democratic Party. And one of the reasons I'm running is because I believe strongly I'm the candidate to do that. So with that, have at me.
Senator Booker.
The gentleman in the back, yes, sir?
The enthusiasm was there for you this morning, but it's not reflected yet in the polls here.
Thank God it's not reflected yet. And I mean that seriously, because we have never had a candidate who was ahead in the polls this far out who's ever gone on to be president. We know that the candidates that win from our party, that energize the kind of movement elections we want to see, are folks who are considered long shots at this point. Carter, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama were all behind. Barack Obama was behind in African-American voters at this point. We do not want to win the summer news cycle. We want to win the first in the nation primary right here in New Hampshire. And I believe what you're seeing with our election consistently is the more and more people get exposed to us. Incredible debate performance where focus groups that some of the networks here did said that I won. Moments like this where people see my capacity to ignite a crowd. We know that over time, we are going to emerge as the nominee from this party. Polls have never been predictive this far out. What is kind of organizations you have on the ground. And I hope you take time to speak to people in Iowa, speak to people in New Hampshire. We have more endorsements in this state than any other candidate, because politicos who know in this state want to be with somebody who's going to win and bring the right message. We have more endorsers in Iowa than the top 4 or 5 pollers combined. Because again, people who know politics, know what our party needs, and want to be with the winner are with our campaign. So I feel very good about where we are right now, and you are welcome to go to corybooker.com and make a contribution.
Senator Booker, you said in your remarks today that we can't tolerate Democrats who will go against other Democrats who try to tear us down. But
Yes.
not too long ago, you called former Vice President Biden an architect of mass incarceration. So what is the line? What is acceptable and not acceptable? What's policy? What's personal?
One second, let me just mock some horror. No, look, I think pointing out differences is okay. I'm talking about what we've seen in the past election, where you had Democrats literally, even after the primary was over, trying to tear down the nominee of our party. The kind of cheap shots, the kind of attacks that we should not tolerate right now when we need to make sure we're building towards unity. So I'm excited. I sounded that message on the debate stage again and again and again, reminding people that the differences between us are small compared to the gulf between this party and where Donald Trump is. I think there's a big gulf between where National Republicans are and Donald Trump is. This is a president that is taking us to very dark places that, frankly, I hear from people my age thinking that we thought this was our problems of past generations, not the kind of divisiveness, degrading, demeaning comments that we're seeing coming from this president. So for me, one of the most important themes in this Democratic primary must be who is the best candidate to unite the Democratic Party and to be able to help to unite the country. I am confident that I'm that person, and that's why I continue to sound that note.
So have you seen any of that tearing down so far in this primary, though? Are you warning about something that you're already seeing, or you're just only looking towards past elections?
Next question.
Yes.
You mentioned briefly low voter turnouts. How are you planning on getting young college-age voters to the voting booth this time around?
Look, we've got to make sure, and by the way, I'm extraordinarily excited that right now we're seeing college-age and high school-age young people lead. Their activism, what I've seen since Donald Trump was elected, has only been rising. And when you have the awful costs of college tuition now, when you have a party that's denying science and that the urgency of climate change even exists, I've seen military reports about what's going to happen in the next 25 years. When, as another one of my colleagues says, I will still be younger than the President of the United States. We have an urgency that young people get, and their activism is incredible. I think we have a candidate that can resonate with that spirit, that youth, and that energy. I believe that we are going to be incredibly fine with young Americans. And they, especially a candidate that trusts them and understands that they must lead.
Senator Booker,
Yes.
you released an aggressive plan on gun control and gun violence. I'm curious where you stand on the issue of a mandatory buyback of assault weapons. Do you support that idea? And would you
Yeah,
talk about
I've said time and time again, I support that. I support gun licensing. I support banning assault rifles. These aren't radical ideas. These are evidence-based measures that we know work. We had machine guns in the 80s. We said we need to get these off the streets. Well, you know what? They've gotten off the streets. We accomplished that. Other nations have said we're going to ban assault rifles and buy them back. They've accomplished that. We can't let the corporate gun lobby tell us what's possible. We can't let the NRA tell us what's possible. Most Americans believe in common sense gun safety. This isn't a partisan issue. Overwhelming majorities. When I came out and said gun licensing, I was criticized by some people in the Democratic Party primary field that said I was going too far. And now we see them moving on board, and now we see polls showing that over 80% of Americans believe in things that this is common sense. You need a license to drive a car, you should have a license to buy and possess a firearm. So I think that this debate is about the ideas that will work, but it's also about having a leader that this is going to be a central purpose. And the reason why I'm that leader is because what we don't talk about enough in this country is that the majority of people being killed in this country are people in communities like mine. African American males are the majority of the homicide victims in this nation. And I live in a community where people don't need to be convinced about what common sense is. I live in a community where we see shrines to children who've been murdered on our sidewalks. I live in a neighborhood where young people I watch grow up are now murder victims. And so I'm going to come into the White House with a sense of conviction on this issue and a drive and a purpose to unite this nation, to call to the conscience of our country so that we could do the things to end the nightmare, which is a uniquely American nightmare. We will stop that under my leadership.
Just to be clear, you're talking about a mandatory program, not a voluntary
Senator,
one.
Please.
You said the last debate for you was incredible. Are you feeling more pressure ahead of this next debate? And do you think, given the poll numbers, that your rivals on that stage are underestimating you?
Look, what is pressure? Pressure is not running for President of the United States. I'm sorry. I go back to my community and I see pressure. I see pressure when people are afraid to send their kids to school. I hear that in New Hampshire. I hear that in Iowa. I hear it in South Carolina. Pressure is not knowing how you're going to pay your medical bills, not how you're going to afford your insulin. I have the incredible privilege. If you had gone back in time and talked to like 17-year-old me and said, hey, one day you're going to be running for President of the United States, this is one of the greatest. My father